They promised to protect, but they didn't keep their word.
Someone held consultations. No. Why? Because it's clear in Russian. This is how it was in Russian. And to all the other guarantors of the Budapest Memorandum, it was because to this country, to these people, to these security guarantees.
And now they have even started to accuse...
You had 3 years. You should have finished it in 3 years. You shouldn't have started it. You could have finished the deal.
Such statements would never have been made if Ukraine had nuclear weapons. And everyone knows that it did.
This is the most wormy button that we have twisted. Yes. So on the command launch, you press this button and I'll be on the other side. And we press simultaneously. Attention, calculation. Punch. Full readiness, combat mode, our plan, our code as well. 9 launchers received the command to launch. Now we'll see what's there. I'll turn on the cameras upstairs and we'll see what we've done here. So 120 tons, or rather now.
Moreover, in 1991, the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world, after the USA and Russia, was located on Ukrainian territory.
There were 1,072 nuclear warheads in service. If we were to combine their power, we could destroy planet Earth several times over.
What other weapons did Ukraine have? Why were the Americans particularly keen on eliminating Kyiv's nuclear potential? And is it possible to revive Ukrainian nuclear weapons? All about this already. In a moment. Let's start with the fact that Ukraine indeed had a massive nuclear potential. Being the third in the world in nuclear capability is no joke. However, they posed a threat to the USA, not to Russia. Ukrainian intercontinental missiles were programmed to target American cities, which is why the United States was very vigilant to ensure that no nuclear weapons remained in Ukraine.
So there's chaos in Russia?
There was chaos in Russia. There was chaos in Ukraine. There was chaos in the post-Soviet space. But there was no chaos in the USA. And specialists came there and monitored every step, every screw. The US controlled everything. Everything was taken away. What remained was destroyed.
As for the Russian Federation, it was impossible to use nuclear weapons against it. Firstly, the minimum range of an intercontinental missile is thousands of kilometers. The Russian Federation is too far beyond the range. And secondly, to strike the Kremlin, permission had to be given by the Kremlin.
I didn't have the black suitcase, it was in Moscow. I could only talk on the phone with the commander of the missile army. He could fulfill my requests or not to mention the power of attorney. This was the reality. Nuclear weapons were outside of Ukraine's control.
Now, talking about lost hopes, or more precisely nuclear weapons, is foolish. The decision was made, and it cannot be changed. But Ukraine has not yet lost its potential. Official Kyiv could indeed acquire nuclear weapons. A former Ukrainian foreign minister even mentioned a dirty bomb.
As for nuclear weapons, we have all the necessary conditions. To ensure that at least a dirty nuclear weapon could end up in Ukrainian hands, it's not what the USA and Russia currently possess, but it could be a deterrent. They are furious beyond the border, but we must think about our own security.
According to him, this is possible if the issue of Ukraine's NATO membership disappears from the agenda. However, when we talk about a dirty bomb, we are primarily playing into Russia's hands.
We should not talk about any dirty weapons because Putin uses all this against us as a provocation, claiming that we are preparing to strike Russia. But it will spread to other countries.
The principle of operation of a dirty nuclear bomb is as follows.
It is the filling of any warhead, which is in missile carriers, for example in drones, explosives, with enriched or unenriched active uranium. If it's a large charge, It will cover kilometers if it's small, hundreds of meters. They will affect very few people, but will contaminate them with radiation as well as Ukrainian territories.
Such an option, although real, frankly does not suit us. After all, we are not Russia, which doesn't care about anyone. And if we are talking about a conventional nuclear weapon, there are certain nuances. On the positive side, Ukraine has scientific potential.
Ukraine has at least scientific potential, and the Kharkiv Nuclear Research Center was known worldwide. It was there and still is. There is actually an experimental nuclear reactor.
We also have uranium. Ukraine already uses it in the operation of nuclear power plants. However, the uranium used for civilian purposes is different from the same element needed to create a bomb.
For civilian use, uranium typically needs to be enriched from 3 to 5%. But in order to utilize uranium effectively in military applications, it typically needs to be enriched from 95 to 99%.
If this is not done, it quite simply won't explode in any way. Well, to enrich uranium, the most common method is centrifugation. And such a special facility, besides being expensive, also requires a huge amount of energy.
It rotates at a speed of about 90 revolutions per minute. It must rotate not for a day or two, but for years without stopping. And there are thousands of such centrifuges in this facility. A uranium enrichment facility is one of the largest structures that humanity has created with its own hands.
If we assume that Ukraine is saving electricity for the sake of nuclear weapons, it needs to decide whether it is willing to spend simply astronomical amounts of money.
Such a project to create nuclear weapons would cost approximately between 30 to 50 billion US dollars.
So globally, Ukraine can make nuclear weapons. The question is about the cost, especially considering that Kyiv is being increasingly dissuaded from NATO, while security guarantees are not being offered. The game might be worth the candle. But we must not forget that when we talk about the cost of nuclear weapons, it's not just about money. Indeed, it involves much more.
In fact, the entire system is built in such a way that if someone launches the first strike, then everything will be destroyed afterwards. Great. I wish you well.
And what do you think? Does Ukraine need nuclear weapons? Write your thoughts in the comments and also like this video, and be sure to definitely subscribe to our new Arsenal channel so you don't miss all the most interesting content.